Good morning. Welcome to the Lorraine County Board of Commissioners meeting of December 8th, 2021. This meeting will now come to order. We will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our inspirational word for the day comes from Luke. Jesus said, "Anyone who lets himself be distracted from the work I planned for him is not fit for the kingdom of God."
Thank you, Commissioner Lundy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Here.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Commissioner Lundy.
Here.
We'll begin with a resolution.
Number 1, investments.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Number 2, appropriations.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Number 3, transfers.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Number 4, advances, repayments. There were none. Number 5, requisitions.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye, except for number 1183, I will be voting no. And that notation is already on the requisitions, in case you forget, Teresa.
I'm fine with it.
Oh, we already voted, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
I just got to make the
Oh, okay.
roll call.
All right.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Number 6, travel.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Number 7, bills.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Next item of business is number 8. Authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary sheet for employees within the jurisdiction of the Lorraine County Board of Commissioners. At the conclusion of today's board meeting, the commissioners may recess into an executive session to discuss personnel and new hires and board appointments. The next item of business is number 9. I move to approve and waive the reading of the meeting minutes of December 1st, 2021.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Abstain.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
The next item of business is number 10. Madam Clerk, please read the resolution into the record.
Adjust the salary of Larry Municipal Court employee, Clerk of Court Eric J. Rothgary, reflecting the county's 2/5 share. His new biweekly rate will be $1,912.06 effective January 1st, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Next item of business is number 11.
Withdrawal the petition to annex 35.593 acres from Restated Township to the City of Overland. Agent John D. Clark, Law Director, City of Overland.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
The next item of business is number 12.
Create an incentive district in the unincorporated territory of Lorraine County, Ohio, and declaring the improvement of parcels within the incentive district to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation for a specified period. Designate public infrastructure improvements that will benefit or serve parcels within the incentive district. Require the owners of such parcels to make annual service payments in lieu of taxes. Establish a redevelopment tax equivalent fund. Create a tax incentive review council, incorporate by reference a certain county non-discriminatory hiring policies for tax exemption recipients, and authorize related actions pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code sections 5909.77 through 83 and 5709.85, and this is for Timber Creek, Eaton Township.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
The next item of business is number 13.
Authorize execution and delivery of a TIF agreement with North Bay Investments LLC relating to the service payments in lieu of taxes and construction and financing of certain public infrastructure improvements and related matters, and this is for Timber Creek, Eden Township.
Okay, move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
The next item of business is number 14.
Authorize the execution and filing of a Form DTE 24 application for real property tax exemption regarding a tax increment financing incentive district in the unincorporated territory of Lorraine County, and this is Timber Creek, Eden Township.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
The next item of business is number 15.
Authorize execution and delivery of an amended and restated TIF agreement with MLM Development LLC relating to service payments in lieu of taxes and the construction and financing of certain public infrastructure improvements and related matters.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
The next item of business is number 16.
Authorize execution and delivery of a TIF agreement with Columbia Creekside LLC relating to service payments in lieu of taxes and the construction and financing of certain public infrastructure improvements and related matters.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Moving on to Children and Families Council, the next item of business is number 17. Madam Clerk, please read the resolution into the record.
Approve and enter in contract with Village Network in the amount of $27,000 for purchase and delivery of services for the Ohio Family and Children First, effective December 1st, 2021 through March 1st, 2022, and will be paid from the contract services account.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to Job and Family Services, the next item of business is number 18.
Okay, this can be a correction. It's 2022, not 23. I'm ahead a whole year, not
Oh,
ahead.
my goodness,
So
yeah.
authorize various personnel to utilize various credit card privileges for the year 2022 in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code and their permissive policy.
Move to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the Office of the Engineer. The next item of business is number 19. Madam Clerk, please read the resolution into the record.
Approve and enter in a subdivider agreement with Columbia Creekside LLC, Rich Barron Subdivider for Creek Ridge Subdivision Number 2, Columbia Township.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Next item of business is number 20.
Approve and enter an agreement with Geosite Inc. in the amount of $80,000 for ongoing engineering inspection and materials testing fees necessary to construct the Creek Ridge subdivision, Columbia Township, to be paid from the MVGT account and then will be reimbursed by the subdivider.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Next item of business is number 21.
Accept on behalf of Columbia Township trustees the improvements of Creek Ridge Subdivision Number 1 off Redfern Road, Columbia Township, which has been completed by Columbia Creekside LLC subdivider, and the following roads are to be dedicated as follows. The plat of the subdivision is recorded in Volume 110, Page 1 of Lorraine County Records of Plats. Whitening Road, Township Road, T 348.053 miles in length from Redford Road to South Termini. Eastbrook Drive, Township T 349.231 mile length, Whitening Way to Cranbrook Way. Creek Ridge Way, Township T 350.038 mile in length from Redford Road to Eastbrook Drive. Marsh Creek Way, Township Road T 351.027 miles length from Eastbrook Drive to South Termini. And then Cranbrook Way, Township T 352.027 mile length, Eastbrook Drive to South Termini.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
The next item of business is number 22.
Approve and enter a contract with K. McCartney and Associates to provide construction administration and inspection services for LOR CR 204.0.001 project, Elyria Township, $43,370, of which 80% will be funded by the ODOT, and the balance of 20% will be paid from the engineer project MVG account. Authorize the engineer to execute on behalf of the Board of Prosecutors' approval as to form.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Young, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
The next item of business is number 23.
Accept on behalf of Columbia Township trustees the improvements of Baker Creek Estates Subdivision Number 1, Columbia Township, to dedicate the plat of this subdivision as recorded in Volume 110, page 39, Lorraine County Records of Plats, Creekview Way, Township Road, T 356.145 mile length, Snell Road to North Termini.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
The next item of business is number 24.
Accept on behalf of Columbia Township trustees the improvements of Baker Creek Estates Subdivision Number 2, Columbia Township, to dedicate the plat of this subdivision as recorded in Volume 110, page 43, Lorraine County Records of Plat, Creekview Way, Township T 356.113 mile length, present termini to Baker Creek Lane, and Baker Creek Lane Township Road Number T 357.220 mile length from Snell Road to North Termini.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Item of business is number 25.
Accept on behalf of Columbia Township trustees the improvements at Emerald Woods Subdivision Number 1 off North Boone Road, Columbia Township, to dedicate the plat of subdivision as recorded in Volume 109, page 64 of Lorraine County Records of Plats, Audrey Ray Township Road, T 340.097 mile length from North Boone Road to Rebecca Lane and Pine Valley Drive, Pine Valley Drive Township Road, T 341.028 mile length from Audrey's Lane to North Termini, Rebecca Lane Township Road, T 342.030 mile length, Audrey's Way to East Termini, Heatherstone Trail Township Road, T 343.112 mile length from North Boone to Wally's Way in St. Andrews Drive, and then St. Andrews Drive Township Road, T 344.030 miles in length from Heatherstone Trail to North Termini, and Wally's Way Township Road, T 345.031 mile in length from Heatherstone Trail to Southeast Termini.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Next item of business is number 26.
Accept on behalf of Columbia Township trustees the improvements to Jana Reserve Subdivision Number 1 off Sprague Road, Columbia Township, to dedicate the plat of this subdivision as recorded in Volume 109, page 86, Lorraine County Records of Plat, Jana Lane Township Road, T 346.275 mile in length from Sprague Road to South Termini, and Beth Street Township Road, T 347.054 mile in length from Jana Lane to West Termini.
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
The next item of business is, what number are we on? 27.
27.
27. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Accepting on behalf of Columbia Township trustees the improvements at Emerald Woods Subdivision Number 2 off North Boone Road, Columbia Township, to dedicate the plat of this subdivision as recorded in Volume 110, page 12, Lorraine County Records of Plats, for Rebecca Lane Township T 342.143 mile length from present termini to east termini, St. Andrews Drive Township Road, T 344.218 mile length from present termini to east termini, Celestine Way Township Road, T 353.028 mile length from Rebecca Lane to North Termini, Kathleen Drive Township Road, T 354.136 mile length from Rebecca Lane to South Termini, and Annabelle Drive Township Road, T 355.218 mile length from St. Andrews Way to South Termini.
Okay, move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Okay, the next item of business is number 28.
Accept on behalf of Indian Township trustees the improvements of Timber Creek Subdivision Number 1 off South Avon Belden Road, aka State Route 83, Eaton Township, to dedicate the plat of this subdivision as recorded in volume 108, page 29 of Lorraine County Records of Plat. Crystal Creek Court, Township Road T 338.193 mile length from Avon Belden Road to East Termini, and Creek Run, Township Road T 339.056 mile length from Crystal Creek Run to South Termini.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Next item of business is number 29.
Accept on behalf of Eaton Township trustees the improvements of Timber Creek Subdivision Number 2 off South Avon Belden Road, State Route 83, Eaton Township, to dedicate the plat of the subdivision as recorded in volume 109 of page 42 of Lorraine County Records of Plat. Crystal Creek Court, Township T 338.147 mile length from present termini to east cul-de-sac.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board?
A rumor has it there's some growth going on in Eaton Township and Columbia Township. Huh?
These are the Tiffs that never end. Is that the song? But I know people at home are just loving this.
Right?
It's a good thing, though.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the prosecutor and the treasurer. The next item of business is number 30.
Accept and journalize the DRETAC appropriation expenditure report as submitted by Lorraine County Treasurer and Prosecutor pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 321.261. The revenue generated for 2021 was $541,312.88, with expenditures of $334,212.87. The tax unit of the prosecutors has expended $305,318.36 and anticipates another $50,780.84 by the end of the year, with a total revenue of $623,789.42. The 2022 estimated tax collection of anticipated revenue will be approximately $900,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board?
Just want to thank Chris Panowski, the whole prosecutor's office, for the amazing work that they do in following up and making sure that the delinquent taxes are being accounted for. It's really important for the schools, especially. They're the ones who receive most of the taxes that come in. Sometimes I think when people see these figures, they think, well, the county now has all this extra money to put in the general fund. We get $1.64 out of every 100 collected, I believe. So, but most of your the tax money, as usual, generally goes to the schools. So it's a real win for them and for other divisions of government.
All set? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the office of the sheriff. The next item of business is number 31.
Entering a sub-grant award agreement with Ohio Department of Public Safety, Ohio Comprehensive Opiate, Stimulant, and Substance Abuse Grant 2021 CSLEF 513A in the amount of $291,721.86, and this will be applied to the salaries, equipment, and supplies of the Drug Task Force.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board?
I just would like to comment, the sad reality is we lost 136 lives. Last year, I think the coroner, when he was here recently, told us we're probably going to go beyond that this year as far as overdose deaths. And, I pointed out all the time in the midst of this pandemic, we can't lose sight of the epidemic that's out there. And that's why it's important for us to have a well-run crime lab, well-funded and run drug task force, and a well-funded prosecutor's office to prosecute these cases so that the folks who are doing this to our families and bringing all this hardship and deaths to the community are held accountable.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, B, lobby session. Welcome to the lobby portion of our meeting. In order to speak on the topic of your choice, you've had to fill out a slip and turn it into the clerk. Madam Clerk, do we have any slips today?
I have not received anything.
Okay, moving on to reports. C, County Administrator, Mr. J.R. White. Do you have a report today? What do we do? Dan?
You didn't fill out a
He didn't turn
report.
a slip in.
Oh, you have
We've
the
already
sheets?
passed.
Oh, they weren't
Was
collected.
there a couple sheets
Oh.
there?
Oh, okay.
Oh, they were there, okay, they were collected.
I'm sorry. I know I'm out of order in the scheme of things, but I don't have a report today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We'll make you come back and get it in order in a second.
We'll bring you back at the proper time.
So full of energy. Look at him.
Do they want to approach to give it to you, Teresa, or are they supposed to leave them back there?
No, they usually give them to me, but I didn't see anything, so.
Jose dropped the ball.
Okay. How do we pronounce this guy's name, Teresa? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Mr. DiCarlo, you are first up. And then, you'll need to state your name and address clearly for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak on the topic of your choice. Let me just get into the timer here real quick. All right, ready?
Michael Carlo, 320 Alberta, Vermilion. Speaking of the drug war, Mr. Lundy, are you familiar with the report Mr. Gary Webb, his 2 Bs, did in the 90s? A lot of the schemes are the same. The elements may have changed as far as the identities, but the patterns it's identical. They did some research on Gary Webb. He was one of those fellows that committed suicide, had 2 holes in his head. He was an excellent journalist. Because all we're doing when we're doing this stuff is going after the low-hanging fruit here, okay? And as far as baseball player, I can't argue with you as far as Roberto Clemente. Mrs. Hung, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Mr. Moore, you mentioned 1824 last week, our last meeting. Started thinking about 1820 or 1800s, people from this area and vicinity. There's an abolitionist, his name was Lysander Spooner, that pretty much he has this thing about the highwaymen and government and stuff. It's a really excellent summary on my view of government in a way. And also on that, this morning, because I couldn't sleep because a neighbor went to the hospital across the street, so I was up all night. It's one of those, hey, you care about the neighborhood stuff. I was watching C-SPAN and I found out during this, the uprising in last year, did you know that most of the Capitol Hill police can't have a secret clearance or a top secret clearance? None of them have that. Don't you find that odd and quite amazing? The quality of people, I tell you. Speaking of low-hanging fruit, in my town, I've been going to the local council meetings and stuff, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, so I'm just going to give you a day on the Vermilion Photo Journal. It's November 18th publication, page 3. It's on the top left. Putting all this money toward putting people in prison, but in the town of Vermilion, 4% of the fire hydrants are out of service, out of commission. I think that if we did an assessment, and if you guys asked the communities, the cities around there, what percentage of their fire hydrants are actually functional, you might be surprised, and we might be reappropriating some funds to benefit everybody instead of just putting people in prison for policy violations. Some countries, they call them political prisoners. I guess that's it, really. I started this whole thing was when, through emergency orders, the city of Vermilion passed the travel thing for the chief of police to go with the sheriff. And I just couldn't figure out what the fire was. So they did 2 readings instead of 3. Passed it under emergency. And I just following things here. And it seems like we're holding the folks outside of government accountable. But if we turned ourselves efforts inward, we might actually reap something better for the general public altogether. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your time. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Will Spiegelberg.
I think he's timing himself.
Good morning and Merry Christmas. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. And I'm going to disagree with Commissioner Lundy and this last gentleman because I'm going to tell you, Pete Gray batted 77 times in the major leagues. That's it. And he had 1 arm because he was in an accident when he was 6 years old. And I'm going to tell you, before, during, and after he was in the major leagues, he went to thousands and thousands of veterans who had lost their arms and legs in World War II. So maybe he wasn't the best on the field, but he got there. So we have different criteria, and that's okay. Because, you know, we're living in a great country, we live in a great county, and I spent, I don't know, 2 hours watching Winners Never Quit, which is a phenomenal movie with Keith Carradine playing Pete Gray. So remember, winners never quit. And if we can make ourselves each a committee of one to go out and help somebody over this Christmas season, whether it's registering them to vote or whatever it is, put our personal business aside for a minute. We got a great commission. Let's look on the positive end of it, and let's remember that winners never quit. Thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to D, Assistant County Prosecutor, Mr. Dan Petticord.
I'm going to break the mold here and actually say something today. So, and Matt has inspired me. Which baseball player? John Hanna was the best football offensive lineman that ever lived. Let's just get that out of the way. That's the important stuff. But talking about the DRETAC stuff, I do think it's important in the chronicles here, and it should be mentioned that in my office, Donna McLaughlin, Katie Kiefer, and Olivia Cruz, who Dave knows very well, do an exceptional job recouping some of the money that is owed to the county and is owed to the school district and is owed to various entities. And it's excellent work that they do, and it's hard work they do. But Chris Pianowski, who's sitting in the back right now, set this whole thing up, and he has collected millions and millions of dollars for the county through this program over the last several years, and I think that needs to go remarked when appropriate. Thank you.
Was there litigation or pending litigation?
Oh, we have one piece of, see, I was trying to be nice today and I forgot to do my job. That's just how that works. We have one piece of pending litigation to update you on in executive session and potential litigation to discuss, yes.
Okay, I'll just use the blanket pending litigation. Okay, Madam Clerk, here's the slips. Okay, moving on to Commissioner's report. Commissioner Moore, do you have a report?
Yep. Sorry, getting caught up from Dan here, you know, so. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of do a mini year in review for people. I'm gonna probably talk about some disturbing things at first, but we're gonna close on some positive notes and have this board move forward. Mr. Ogletree, which I know he's not here today, he's been coming here for the last 3 months, and I was gonna address some of his concerns, but he's not here. I'd like to clarify that when he states that the Board of Commissioners have not addressed your concerns, it's really more accurate for him to state that the majority of this board has not addressed his concerns. I never interrupted him while he was speaking, but I have publicly asked for her to resign and made a motion to remove her as president. But I believe there's much more that most people outside of this county government that they do not know. There's so much more at play here than just an employer-employee sex scandal. This is about county tax dollars being misspent. This is about a breach of public trust. And this is about a commissioner acting as an advocate for a vendor to secure contracts. Her conduct violates Ohio law, specifically Ohio Revised Code 102.03, 2921.42, and 2921.43. So let's confront the undeniable facts. First, by her own admission, when Michelle was deciding vote to hire Harry Williamson as the 911 director for $80,000 a year, she was in an undisclosed sexual adulterous relationship with him. Harry Williamson was employed at Century Tel that was involved in helping wiring the 911 facility in the beginning. And the president of the FLCIO, when her and Harry met on the campaign trail in 2020, Michelle has admitted to multiple people that their relationship turned sexual on the 2020 campaign trail and before the November election. However, when she was the deciding vote to hire Harry on January 4th, she remained silent on her disqualifying entanglement. Some may try to excuse or minimize that conflicted vote. But second, against the advice of legal counsel, In the face of many violations of Ohio law, Hung fought for many hours to try and save Williamson from termination to no avail. Even though Williamson was let go for cause, she was a deciding vote to allow Williamson to wrongfully receive unemployment benefits. Now, as these events were unfolding and her motives were becoming clear, I felt a responsibility to the taxpayers to review all of the decisions and dollars spent at 911 this year. For example, we, as a board, voted 3-0 on May 5th, 2021, on item number 794. This vote allowed $30,465 of county funds to be spent from the maintenance account for the following purchase. Burns Road, 911 Annex SBO. You'll see this on our requisitions. It stands for Super Blanket Purchase Order. April through December of 2021 for all labor, material, and equipment to perform interior renovations and alterations to Lorraine County 911 Center. On its face, this appears legitimate. But after my investigation, I uncovered that the Burns Road building is only 3 years old. Why would it need interior renovations? As I requested all of the bids on this project, I was trying to confirm if rumors were true about the construction work that was performed there. What I found out was the board was tricked into voting to turn Harry's office into a quiet, soundproof office with zero light penetration. Why does a county director's office need to be soundproof and shielded from any light? Why would what goes on in a director's office need to be soundproof? Some may say $30,000 for an office is not that much. But let me now share with you the larger issues here. To really understand the complexity of this issues, and there's several issues here, I will have to identify a few of the lists of these characters. The three of us, county commissioners, the fire officials and police officials, Lorraine County business Vasu, who was a vendor, Cuyahoga County business and union shop Cleveland Communications, a vendor, the previous director and former AFL-CIO president Harry Williamson, and Dick Miller with the Department of Administrative Services for the state of Ohio, a field operations manager. Now, a lot of wheels were in motion prior to 2021. A so-called independent consulting firm was hired, and alliances were formed to ensure what I now believe were predetermined outcomes. I want to be clear. The fire departments and the police departments have their own favorite radio systems. I do not wish to be in the middle of that debate, and my concerns do not arise based on the merits of two radio systems. My concerns are based on what I consider to be inappropriate efforts to swing over $6 million in a no-bid contract to one particular small vendor outside of Lorraine County. In fact, to ensure that all the fire and police departments can have the radio systems of their choice, this board recently voted to allow 2 antennas to be installed at 911 Tower on Burns Road. Those antennas now give the local communities the ability to decide on their own which system is best for their coverage. In fact, in the Commissioner's last newsletter mailed out to Lorraine County households promoting Cleveland Communications, having an antenna put up on their 911 tower, which I personally stated I did not support that. I crossed it out, but it was sent out with taxpayers' dollars about one antenna on one vendor being put up on a tower. But there seems to be more here at play than competing radio systems. Some of these issues I cannot share due to the current litigation between Tom Williams and Commissioners Hung and Lundy concerning his termination. But what I can share is this. The former 911 director was also the AFL-CIO president at the time, who also helped Hung receive her union endorsements. Together, the two of them acted as lobbyists for Cleveland Communications. Together, Cleveland Communications, Hung and Williamson attended city council meetings in support of this out-of-town company. Hung also made phone calls to city council members, lobbying for votes to swing contract dollars to CCI. All of her actions appear to be clear violations of state statute. In short, a county commissioner is not permitted to leverage their influence to help a vendor secure contracts and revenues. In addition to what I consider inappropriate lobbying, both Michelle and Harry used their positions of trust and responsibility in Lorraine County to provide a competitive advantage to CCI. They required Dick Miller, the DAS field operations managers for the Marks radio system, a competitor of CCI, to reveal to them in detail all the information and capabilities of Marks that would be extremely valuable to a competitor like CCI when bidding against Marks. In fact, The DAS realized something was not right with Hung and Williamson's request. They are emails showing DAS inquiring why Harry and Michelle needed this information after it was given. There was no reply. That is likely because there was no appropriate excuse for their request. When I talked to Mr. Miller at DAS, he expressed his concerns about the release of valuable, competitive information to Hung and Williamson. In fact, Mr. Miller expressed concern that marks and the public bidding process was possibly being compromised. I share Mr. Miller's concerns. Public bidding exists and is structured to protect the integrity of county contracts and public dollars. I take anything that threatens that integrity quite seriously. So on April 28th, 2021, this board approved a contract with CCI for 3-0. At the time, I thought the contract had been properly bid. I have since learned that I was wrong. Former 911 Director Harry Williamson reached out to a Lorraine County business, Vasu, and requested a quote for 911. They came in at $103,165.08 on April 5th. On April 7th, 2 days later, CCI came in with a competing bid at $102,118.08. I have now learned this bid process did not follow the county's procurement policy and was not publicly bid with the properly sealed bids. Instead, Vasu was encouraged to put all its cards on the table to Hung and Williamson, the advocates of CCI, and CCI miraculously came in 2 days later with the low bid. I do not believe in this kind of coincidences. I believe CCI was given an unfair advantage over another vendor, a Lorraine County vendor. But what I found, the events on June 14th, even more disturbing. That is what really started that something is not what it should be. At 8:30 a.m. on June 14th, I received an email asking me to attend a build-out and radio project meeting. It was a very detailed email with a lot of data in anticipation that plans would be shown and addressed that day. But when I sat down for the 1:30 meeting, the meeting did not follow the agenda. Instead, it was a pressure play by Michelle and Harry for my support of a no-bid contract in favor of Cleveland Communications for $6.5 million. I was very troubled and asked a lot of questions when neither of them could explain why we were meeting to decide public business in violation of the sunshine laws for the benefit of an individual vendor they called mission critical, the consultant who was hired and recommended CCI products, who tried to use state statute 307.86 as a way to circumvent public bidding. I told them I am well aware of such statutes and that I was not about to do a $6.5 million no-bid contract. At that point, I left the meeting. According to those who remained behind, once I was gone, the president of CCI told Hung, looks like you're going to have to form an alliance with Lundy. In what universe does this county want a vendor directing a commissioner's actions for its own financial benefit? It was clear that day that something was really wrong there. This is when the soap opera narrative returns. Days after, Hung failed to deliver this $6.5 million no-bid contract to CCI. Williamson had harsh words for her, distressing her and making her upset. Who does she turn to for support but her former campaign manager and the county administrator, Tom Williams? Upset about Harry's inappropriate text, Hung spills her guts to Tom and enlists his support to straighten out Harry. After visiting Hamilton County's 911 in July to review the Harris radio systems, there were some taxpayers, on the taxpayers' dime. Hung and Williamson resumed their relationship with full force. Over the ensuing week or so, Tom Williams thinks about everything he confided in and goes to the prosecutor's office. We all know what happens next. 20 years ago, when I was here, I exposed the corruption involved in Lorraine County Justice Center that led to a commissioner and a few vendors going to jail. As a commissioner, our job is the budget authority for the county and a watchdog over spending for county funds. So hopefully, from here on out, we can eventually put these latest episodes behind us. But when I took office, it's all about economic development and creating a healthy environment for our county. Our state is shrinking, and as you saw today's meeting, our county is growing. I was asking our Port Authority, Jim Miller, says, if you could share with me some of the, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to start out with Jim, or Andrew Lippian. I asked him how things were going at the recorder's office. He gave me a list of some of the great things that are going on. They're going to be fully caught up by January 2022 from the virus backlog left over from 2019. A great accomplishment for his team. He's in the process. YouTube is of getting all of our meetings digitized since 2021 or 2001. They've been having some humor at my expense since I was there and about 20 years younger. They created the first Lorraine County Record Center first continuity guide, ensuring consistencies and continuance of government operations. They cleaned up and reorganized the office, including organizing account files and in-house county files and vendor lease contractual services. They added a mock mini microfilm scanner to our equipment inventory, implemented the first ever auditing system, drastically increasing error detection, saving valuable time and taxpayer dollars. Added two new departments records to the LCRC, which is the Port Authority and the Visitors Bureau, saving county dollars by using solid waste to destroy mid-year and end-of-year documents, were previously used at Gateway Recycling from Cleveland. They revamped the emergency safety plans, and I found out there's a 2-year cycle on record destructions. I'm hoping maybe the prosecutor can work with our with Teresa, maybe see what's going on there, see if we can start keeping these records. Some of the contracts, I was trying to look up some contracts, and he says it looks like they may have been destroyed. Our Gary Gibbs, who's actually the our Visitors Bureau director, team of one, is doing a great job. He had to reschedule a meeting. On December 13th, he's meeting with the Lake Erie Shores and Islands and exploring like joint partnerships with offshore racing. That will be coming to Lorraine County. So that's pretty exciting. He worked with McRone Motorsports about 6 or 8 months ago and working with the city of Lorraine in bringing this 2023 racing course events. It's throughout the whole United States. It's coming to Lorraine. He's been supporting the hotelers in our county, like going to them and saying, what can we do for you? He's been working with the city of Lorraine, Port Authority, and trying to light up the Charles Berry Memorial Bridge, which this board has supported. He did a good job with the Apple Festival and the Car Festival. And he's been organizing filed records for preservation, easy access at County Records Retention Center at the Gateway Boulevard. He's been finding records since 1983, so sometimes we keep records longer than we should. Jim Miller and his team has been doing a great job at the Port Authority this year. What I'm going to talk about is they just completed a refunding of Kendall at Overland, including an issuance of $13.825 million in economic development revenue bonding funds. When they say refunding, that means that's just a bond term, which is similar to like a renewal or a refinance. He's currently working on refunding the Westland Village in Elyria, an issuance of $24 million in economic development revenue fund. He's currently partnering with the development of $16 million in a multi-tenant facility in Lorraine County, and they call it Project Irish. And that's going to be exciting. I've seen those plans. He's doing a good job his team's doing a good job and partnering with a lot of people to bring that to fruition. He's currently working on a $975,000 build-out at 340 South Abbey for tenants, Lorraine County Office on Aging, and the Lorraine County Solid Waste District. They're currently finishing up the construction of the $80 million Bendix headquarters, which was started previously. And he's working with Lorraine County Board of Elections on the roof and parking lot improvements over there. And the land bank, they've completed sale of over 150 properties to individuals and companies, returning them to taxable status. We had over 600 of them in our bank. The problem is when they're there, they're not paying taxes. As Commissioner Lundy was saying, that's money that's not going to our schools. He sold the E&L Transport site in Lorraine, Ohio, and that's going to be interesting. Keep an eye on that. It may not make sense, but basically it's a compost company that's picked Lorraine County. So you might want to keep your eyes and ears open for that company as they start developing out there on Baumhart Road over there. And he completed the sale of downtown Lorraine properties to some viable entities for development. The Lorraine County Solid Waste District has been very fortunate to have Dave Blevins and his team there. They've basically have taken a lot of wealth and knowledge in regards to managing people and the public. So what's going on out there is pretty amazing. And what I'm going to do is Rob Duncan is quite ill, and I had Dave Blevins and Rob Duncan's reports here. As you can see, I have a feeling people are probably getting bored of me talking. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this for their two reports for next week because, like I said, with Dave has a tendency to say quite a bit. Maybe it's because of the name's Dave. But he gave a lot. There's a lot going on at solid waste. I will bring that up on the December 15th report. Again, with there's a lot more coming with our in regards to Gary Gibbs, the county convention center. Even though it did not pass, we're still looking at sites and seeing something that could be a little bit more appealable to the voters to see if it's something they could be interested in. So he's still moving forward with that, and I'm looking forward to 2022. Thank you. That's the end of my report, and I shortened it. So.
Mr. Lundy, do you have a report today?
Yes, I do. First, I want to thank everyone for helping to decorate the room here, and I think Commissioner Hung had some input on that. I've never had these bulbs up above my head before, but as long as they're not too heavy and they don't cut loose, we're
No,
good.
they're plastic.
So, but
Story about stuff above your head.
I didn't do it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just brought the supplies.
no, it looks great. Looks great. So definitely puts us in the holiday mood, that's for sure. So just wanted to give a quick update to this board. Representatives to the NOACA board in Cleveland had a meeting recently to talk about facility planning areas. Facility planning areas are very important when it comes to especially sewers throughout the county. And obviously, the infrastructure dollars now are going to be, coming our way. The purpose of working with NOACA and their extremely talented and professional staff is to take a look at, okay, what is it that, Elyria maybe could do more efficiently and more effectively, what the county could do, what Lorco could do throughout the county, so that we can find ways to better partner and make sure that we do things effectively and efficiently and have a little bit of give and take that maybe hadn't existed in the past, and make sure that when we're investing these infrastructure dollars that we're investing them wisely. So that's a very important first step, and we're going to be having ongoing meetings about that in 2022. Lorraine County Community Alliance came together for the Government Day. Always a great event. Township, city leaders, governmental leaders, county leaders all coming together to talk about how to improve government and services, most importantly, throughout the county. It's a unique group. Not a lot of counties can say that they have a community alliance. It's when I used to bring it up in Columbus, people used to say, wow, you actually got township trustees and city folks talking to each other and working on things. Yes, we do. And it's worked out very well. I want to thank Senator Portman's office for having representation there as well, too. Congresswoman Capter, Representatives Stein and Miller, Representative Manning was unable to attend, but Senator Manning was there as well, too, and gave us all kind of good updates on what's going on in Columbus as well. The Budget Commission met this week. The good news is it looks like the projections for sales tax collections will exceed sales tax collections for 2020. The auditor is projecting we're going to come in around $31 or $31.5 million. Local government funding has been strong as well, too, up 13%. The good old interest obviously is way down, as we've seen in the past. There was a time in this county we used to bring in at about $7 million in interest. We're just over $1.2 million this year. And casino revenue, I guess folks are really hitting the casinos these days. Casino revenue is coming in strong, too. That's up 42% compared to a year ago. Also want to salute our veterans. A lot of veterans coming together for Pearl Harbor Day. 80 years now since that tragic event took place in our country. But we can never say enough about saying thank you to our veterans each and every day. And with that said, too, I guess I'd also like to point out when we get the opportunity in the community, if you see the nurses, the doctors, anybody working in the healthcare field, they are just mentally and physically drained right now. A lot of stress, a lot of long hours, they're short-staffed. And so if you get a chance to see somebody in the healthcare profession, please just stop a minute and say thank you for what they're doing. With that said, our community protection team came together yesterday discussing what's going on in the county with dealing with COVID. The case count, unfortunately, is going up. The concern here, obviously, is still the Delta variant, not the Omicron yet. Hospitals are experiencing a big surge in their emergency rooms. If you need to go to an emergency room, you're probably going to be sitting there for a while. just even waiting for a bed. The hospitals are starting to postpone non-emergency surgeries around here. The concern also is that in 2020, a lot of people put off going into the hospitals and receiving the medical care that they needed, especially some early signs of cancer. So there's concern about people nowadays actually being sicker or more sick as a result of putting off a much-needed medical attention. That's been an offshoot from the pandemic. Mercy says their hospital's full. UH is full. They're having some staffing challenges as well. They say their ER is overwhelmed. There's a big front page story in the paper today that you'll be able to see. And the libraries are telling us that just in the past couple of weeks, they've given out over 6,300 rapid COVID tests for people to take home and administer. Finally, had the opportunity to sit in on a important meeting with mental health and addiction professionals, behavioral health professionals in the region, the Northeast region, multiple counties. They broke us into two groups. They had a Southeast region and a Northeast region with these Zooms. You now go into these breakout rooms. They wanted each one of the counties to kind of give an update on what we're trying to do to address these issues. I did report about this board's strong support for the one-stop crisis center in the county and our $4 million commitment to that, also our commitment to the Road to Hope initiative, keeping mothers and their children together as the mothers go through recovery. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Lundy. It is my responsibility and what I was elected to do to work for the residents of Lorraine County. I have expeditiously worked to interview and fill director positions such as JFS Director, 911 Director, Crime Lab Director, Dog Warden, and as many of you know, we have a new highly qualified and even-tempered county administrator. We have also worked to backfill over a dozen vacant jobs that for whatever reason were left languishing for months without attention by former management. The public can rest assured that their county government has been working. This commissioner has been at work, and I will continue to do the work for the residents of Lorraine County, and I will not be distracted by Dave's comments. That completes my report. And the very next item of business is F, the clerk's report. Madam Clerk, do you have a report?
I do not.
Our next item is G, board correspondence. I move to waive the reading of the board correspondence due to an executive session we have scheduled.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
At this time, I move to adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel issues, employment and new hires, and pending litigation.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
We've returned from executive session and our meeting is back in session. I move to approve the personal summary sheet.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye, except for I'll be voting no on the Workforce Development Community Director position.
Okay, meeting announcements. The next regularly scheduled board meeting is Wednesday, December 15th at 9:30 a.m. Is there any further business from this board? Since there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.